My Christian parents still think I live in sin with my boyfriend, whom I married 13 years ago. I am not close with my parents, but we talk. My mental health is better as long as I keep them at a distance. Before I, a 49-year-old female, met my boyfriend husband, let's call him Sam, a 50-year-old male, my parents told me that they would never accept me choosing a partner who smoked, was not Christian, did not have an education, etc. Then I met Sam. He had just returned from backpacking around the world for years. He had no formal education, smoked 2 packs of Lucky Strikes a day, smoked marijuana, had piercings, did not want a steady job, did not own anything, and not only was he not a Christian, but he also believed that religion is the cause of much evil and was actively against all forms of religion. He was exactly what I needed. He moved into the apartment I shared with 3 others. We each had our own bedroom and shared the kitchen, living room, and bathroom. We were 25, 26 years old. After 5 months, we started having a physical relationship as friends with benefits. After a year of being friends with benefits, we realized we had feelings for each other. My parents started sending me letters, talking about choosing the narrow path, not being tempted, and avoiding damnation. We moved to a smaller apartment, just the 2 of us. We committed to each other. Sam got a steady job, and sometimes he worked 3 jobs and earned as much as I did in my higher-paying job because he worked so much. We bought an apartment together. I realized more and more that he was not just good in bed and a good friend. He was truly a great person. He is the one you want in your corner when things are not going well, and you really need someone you can trust. I was, and still am, head over heels in love with him. His family was the opposite of mine, entirely atheistic and not very close. I had felt suffocated by my family in my teenage years and early 20s. He had been more or less abandoned by his parents when he was 16. His parents divorced and both moved in with new partners, not wanting him to come along. He was allowed to stay in the apartment he grew up in alone, receiving some money for food, and his father checked up on him once a week. As soon as he turned 18, he was on his own, and the old apartment was sold. Sam raised himself, decided his own morals and values, and determined what was important to him. And he is just such a great, empathetic, and caring person. I was always told growing up that non-Christians had bad morals, and that clearly is not true. So 13 years ago, we married quietly and did not tell anyone. None of our parents know. Our parents still have not met, and I always plan to keep it that way. The cultural divide is too significant, even though we are from the same country, all white and middle class. My parents ignore Sam most of the time. They invite me to stay over for Christmas, and I say, no, I am not leaving Sam alone over Christmas. We want to celebrate together. That makes them immediately drop the subject because they cannot have us sleep in the same bed in their house, even though we have lived together for 23 years. And because I have a bit of childhood trauma and bad memories in that house, I never want to stay there anyway. So win-win. I will never tell my parents I am married. I was almost assaulted in the parking lot. It all happened when I got my first job. I worked in an office and usually finished late at night, which was honestly so exhausting, but I had gotten used to it. That night felt like any other. I grabbed my keys and headed to my car in the parking lot. It was late, and the place was basically empty except for this one car. There was a man sitting inside, and right away, I got this really bad feeling. I had never seen him before, but something about the way he was just sitting there felt so off, like he was waiting for me or something. I brushed it off and went to my car, but as soon as I did, he got out of his. My stomach dropped. I instantly knew something was not right. I quickly got into my car, but before I could even lock my door, he yanked it open and grabbed me. My heart literally stopped. For a second, I just froze, completely panicking. My brain was racing, and the only thing I could think of was that if I did not fight back, I would regret it for the rest of my life. He did not say a word, just started trying to assault me right there on the ground. That is when I started resisting and screaming, full-on, blood-curdling screams. I did not even know I could scream like that. But it actually worked. He freaked out for a second, and that was all I needed. I immediately bit his finger as hard as I could. I actually thought I had cut his finger off. He screamed, and that gave me just enough time to shove him off me, scramble back into my car, and lock the doors. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely start the car, but the second I did, I just sped off. I do not even remember driving home. I was in total shock, like I was on autopilot. When I got home, my boyfriend was still awake, and the second I saw him, I ran straight into his arms and broke down. I started crying so hard, my whole body shaking, that I could barely stand. He did not ask me what happened at first, he just held me, but he knew something really bad had happened. Eventually, he sat me down and gently asked, "Tell me what happened," but I could not even speak. It took me about 15 minutes to finally get the words out, and when I did, I could feel how furious he was. He then took me to the bathroom, helped me wash my face, and changed my clothes because I literally could not do anything myself. Neither of us slept that night. I just lay on him while he held me, rubbing my back and letting me know I was safe. At some point around 5 a.m., I finally passed out from exhaustion. I slept for a few hours, and when I woke up, he was still there. He had taken the day off work. I still had not even fully processed what had happened. He offered to help me shower, and I just let him because I was too drained to even care. I sat there, completely numb, while he gently washed me. Afterward, he carried me back to bed, dressed me, and tried to get me to eat, but I just could not. Instead, he made me some tea and just stayed by my side the whole day. My phone was blowing up with calls from work, but he took it away and said, "You do not need to deal with that right now." That night, I finally got hungry, so he ordered food, and by the next day, we started really talking about everything. At first, I did not want to press charges, but he convinced me, so we did. 3 days later, they caught the man, and I cannot lie, when I found out, I felt like I could finally breathe again. The fear did not just disappear, but knowing he was locked up made me feel so much safer. Everyone eventually found out, but my boyfriend made sure no one called or visited me until I was ready. Now, I am in therapy, and I am getting better little by little. It is definitely not easy, but I am taking it one step at a time. I still do not think I have properly thanked my boyfriend for everything he did for me, but I know one thing for sure. I would not have made it through this without him. And now, I finally have the courage to write this. I've started having physical relations with my friend's girlfriend. They are both homeless. In a way, so am I right now. I'm staying with a friend, but it's only temporary. I still feel like I'm on the streets most nights, sleeping wherever I want. I've known him for a couple of years. We get along well. Most people don't like him because of his mental illness. He's bipolar and schizophrenic. But I'm manic bipolar, so we sort of balance each other out. We often ask each other for advice and perspective on things. About a year ago, she showed up, and our entire friend circle fell for her. She was with a guy at the time, but he was an abusive meth dealer. One day, when he shoved her into the street and pulled a knife, I had him put away. People can say whatever they want, but I have no problem calling the police over something that dangerous. I ended up rescuing her from a few bad situations like that. We spent a couple of weeks sleeping next to each other, fooling around a little, but mostly just being close friends. Then my friend developed serious feelings for her, so I backed off. I told him I shouldn't be spending the night with her anymore, and I asked her to ease up on the hugging and affection because it was messing with my head. They became a couple, and things were good for a while. They've been together for about 6 months now, but lately, the fights have been getting worse. Every time they argue, he tries to leave her and go into a homeless shelter. But before he can get in, she convinces him to stay and not leave her alone. Then recently, she caught him in the act with his social worker. He ran off, and when the worker stepped out of her car, she slapped her hard across the face, knocking her glasses off. The worker called the police and she was arrested. Before they took her in, she handed her bags to some guy and told him to give them to her boyfriend when he came back. But when he did, he had already decided he was done with her. He took her money, alcohol, and cigarettes, then just took off. He didn't want to stash her bags or even carry them. It was everything she owned, so I hid them behind some bushes, covering them with leaves. A few hours later, they let her out. She ran into me downtown, a total wreck. I helped her find her stuff and got her some alcohol and cigarettes. I make money dancing in public, so I can usually help friends out when they really need it. That night we slept next to each other in the park. It wasn't romantic. It was freezing and we had no blankets, no warm clothes, nothing. We just held each other for warmth. When she woke up, she was disoriented but grateful that she woke up next to someone she knew wouldn't take advantage of her. The next day we spent time together, and she was being unusually sweet and flattering toward me. I got her some clean clothes from the thrift store, and we stopped to talk to another friend. That friend, hearing how she was talking about me, decided to play wingman, for fun, I guess. He started hyping me up, saying how I always stay cool, how I'm a real soldier, and a bunch of other nonsense that made me roll my eyes. But I guess it worked. We walked to the end of a street downtown and she asked me for a hug. I was happy to oblige. I always hug her when she's upset. But this time, she reached down and grabbed me, making it very clear what she wanted. She said we should get a motel room right now. Within half an hour, we were in an Uber, undressing in a motel room. The sex was incredible, the best I've ever had. We spent the rest of our time there enjoying each other. The next day, she decided she wanted a ticket back to her home state. On the way to the station, she passed out, stone drunk, right there on the sidewalk. I stayed with her, put her on her left side, and made sure she was breathing. At first, I just kept an eye on her, but we were right in front of a busy, well-known theme park. People kept stopping, staring, and wondering why this attractive girl was passed out on the sidewalk. I tried everything to wake her up, calling her name, pinching her hand, even joking that I was going to steal her bottle of Fireball. Nothing worked, so I called the paramedics. I figured that was better than getting the police involved. They wouldn't let me go with her, and the hospital said she wasn't allowed visitors. So I went back home, assuming that was the end of it. She doesn't usually have a phone. She either loses them or gets them stolen. So I figured she'd go into treatment and then leave town. But no. The next day she came back, and I saw her with her boyfriend, acting like nothing had happened. I stayed cool. I was relieved, honestly. I figured things were back to normal. But they kept fighting. Yesterday, after a big argument in the morning, she decided that she and I were dropping everything and going to the beach. We had fun, but she was exhausting, high maintenance, needy, and demanding the entire time. She made me play only her music for hours while she vented about all her exes and traumas. We fooled around a little in the sand, just some making out, but that was it. By the time we were heading back, I was fed up. We argued off and on the entire ride home. I told her I thought we had made a mistake and that we should just forget it happened. But she didn't feel that way. She said she needs us both. She wants to stay with him. I can't blame her for that. They're in love. But she also claims to love me, says she loves me even more than him. She says she can't abandon him because, in a way, she sees him as a son. She lost a child, and now she feels responsible for him. So I asked her, "Does that mean you want me as a side piece?" She said yes. I said okay, at least now I understand what she wants. When we got back to town, he was obviously upset. The truth is, we're just lying to him. I was so over her bullshit that I begged him to take her off my hands. Part of me thinks I should just tell him the truth. Another part of me thinks I should avoid them both entirely for a while, let them figure out what they really want. But she's trying so hard to keep me around. She always finds reasons for me to stop by. A part of me wants to lay it out for her, Tell her that if she really wants to be with me, she has to leave him. But deep down, I know the truth. She's never going to be monogamous. I showed my family how to pleasure myself as a kid, and it's still haunting me at 30. So, when I was around 10 or 11, I stumbled onto something that felt incredibly innocently. It was during a big family gathering, Thanksgiving or maybe a birthday, I can't quite recall. The house was buzzing with relatives, aunts gossiping, uncles arguing about football, cousins running around, and me, this curious little kid, just wandering near the dining room table. That's when it happened. I brushed up against the corner of the table in just the right way, and holy moly. This jolt of pure, secret bliss shot through me. I discovered something amazing. I figured. In my innocent preteen brain, I didn't think, this is private. Nope. I thought, everyone needs to know about this right now. So picture this. I climbed up onto a chair, gathered my family around like I was about to unveil a magic trick and said, "Hey, I've got a secret to show you." They all shuffled over, probably expecting something cute or silly. Instead, I hoisted myself up, positioned my vajayjay right on the table corner, and started rubbing myself against it, back and forth, grinning ear to ear. "See, it feels super good," I announced, like I just invented sliced bread. The reaction, instant chaos. Dead silence at first, like you could hear a pin drop. Then my mom's face went beet red, my dad coughed and looked at the ceiling, and my aunts started muttering excuses to leave the room. My cousins just gawked, some giggling, others confused. Someone yanked me off the table so fast I almost fell, and the adults scrambled to change the subject. I didn't get why everyone was freaking out. To me, I just shared a cool life hack. Fast forward to this week. I'm 30 now, living my adult life, when my older brother decides to drop a bomb at family dinner. "Hey, remember that time you gave us the table demo?" he says, smiling like a fool. The whole table erupts in laughter, and I'm sitting there, fork frozen midair, feeling that same hot wave of embarrassment crash over me. It's been decades, and I still want it to melt into the floor. I can laugh about it now, but there's still this lingering cringe that won't quit. Who does that? I guess it's taught me to keep some secrets to myself, but God, that memory hits hard. My wife left me for an emotional affair. I just came out of a 14-year relationship with 2 young children who are both 4 years old. In the summer of 2023, I caught my wife flirting with a coworker via text. That was a complete shock to me, as I always assumed we had an honest relationship with each other. That was the first time that I found out something about my partner that I would never have thought. Little did I know that this would be the start of her emotional affair with a coworker. I confronted her, and she told me that she enjoyed the attention from the coworker at work, but that she would never leave me for him. He was the guy I would not need to worry about, even though I had already told her that I knew he wanted her. She assured me multiple times that he was just a coworker, and that she loved me above everything else. She told me that she liked the messages he sent her. They were messages like, "You look amazing in those pants." I allowed it, and our intimacy even got a huge boost because of her flirting with him. It's also worth noting that this coworker was in a steady relationship of 8 years at the time. My wife told me that the coworker's partner also agreed to the flirting, which made me stupidly agree to let her have her flirting satisfaction. I didn't want to be the overly strict one who stopped the flirting. More on that later. After 6 months, this flirting started to weigh on my conscience, so I told her to go no contact with the coworker. She was sending him pictures of herself in the mirror in a nice skirt, and that was an absolute no-go for me. There has also been an incident where she went for drinks with the coworker and lied to me about him being present. I told her I wanted to know when the coworker would be with her. Life went on, and we stayed together as a couple, but over time, I noticed that her affection towards me was decreasing, especially in the last couple of months. I was also very suspicious because she was always on her phone and guarded it constantly. She never left it unattended. However, we kept busy. We continued to do many things together: city trips, restaurant visits, concerts, etc. It did not really feel like anything was off. We did not have any fights at home. 2 months ago, I confronted her and told her that things weren't going well between us and that I felt like all the love was coming from my side. I also noticed that she was annoyed by little things, and that got us into some fights. It felt like she found me annoying, but I did not find her annoying. I literally told her this. She would even start a fight with me about shoes that were a bit in the way in the entrance hall. Now, a month has passed, and she has completely ended the relationship, which comes as a complete shock to me. I thought that things were not going great, but that we could still work things out. At first, she told me that her feelings were gone and that nothing else was going on. I asked her if the coworker had anything to do with it, but she went into full denial. She also started to list a whole lot of things during the breakup that she had to put up with from me, and why the relationship was not working for her. I was too negative. I was chaotic. She had to always please me to keep me happy, etc. That was a big blow to my self-image and self-confidence. She also stated that she absolutely did not want couples therapy when I asked to do at least one session together. But after a few days, it turned out that the coworker she flirted with in 2023 also ended his relationship in the same weekend as our breakup. The secrets were starting to come out. I have no direct proof of a physical affair, but it is obvious that she kept her emotional affair with the coworker, even after I forbade it in 2023. The physical affair probably already happened prior to or soon after our breakup. There's also a disturbing incident when I visited a museum with her in November last year. She clearly wanted me to take a picture on a staircase next to a painting with her phone, while we normally would always take pictures with my phone. I had to retake the same picture 6 times until it was good for her. When I learned that the coworker also ended his relationship, I saw an engagement reel of his ex-wife on Instagram, which contained that same exact pose and picture on the staircase. I am truly devastated. That engagement reel was also deleted shortly after their breakup. I blame her immensely for not being honest with me. I had to confront her about the flirting in 2023, and I had to confront her again when our relationship started falling apart. She never sat me down for a serious talk about our relationship. When I confronted her about both breakups lining up, she said it was a coincidence. What a joke. I also asked her for a clear explanation of how things unfolded for her, from the flirting to the breakup, but she keeps sticking to the same story. She insists that she only flirted with the colleague in 2023, that the contact stopped back then, but that she always kept thinking about him with romantic feelings. She does not admit that she kept texting him, but the evidence is undeniable. In my search for answers, because my ex did not give me any, I also contacted the ex of the coworker. I found shocking proof of their emotional affair during a phone call. Some examples. 1. My ex would regularly make payments from her personal account to our joint bank account. I did not have insight into her personal bank account. These were all cases of lunches during the workday, but I also have evidence that my ex told me she was going out for drinks with a girlfriend when she was actually going out for drinks with the coworker. I did not know she was lying at the time. 2. They even had drinks with each other a few days after their breakups. He accidentally paid with their joint bank account, and my ex paid for the wine she drank. 3. My ex suddenly started watching Free Solo Asterisk, despite having no prior interest in climbing. The coworker's ex told me that's his favorite documentary and that he is into indoor climbing. 4. My ex was very concerned about the conflict in Gaza. The coworker's ex told me that he was also constantly following the conflict and shared daily updates on Instagram. He even planned to travel there to help. I even have proof of a deposit from our joint account to Gaza. 5. I told the coworker's ex about the flirting in 2023, which was a complete shock to her. She did not even know that this had occurred. 6. Prior to me finding out about the flirting in 2023, my ex suggested an open relationship. The coworker suggested exactly the same in the summer of 2023. 7. When I told my ex that I noticed her feelings for me were fading, the coworker also told his ex that he had doubts about their wedding and had feelings for my ex. 8. The coworker had been sick at home, and my wife visited him with some other coworkers. She did not even tell me about this. 9. The coworker's ex told me that both the coworker and my ex expressed their feelings for each other back in September of last year. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. I don't want to know about the hundreds of messages exchanged behind my back. It's just so unreal for me. I don't know how to cope with this unbearable feeling of betrayal. She has been preparing for this breakup for at least 6 months and left me clueless. I always treated her very well. I want to keep my calm during the negotiations and focus on my children. But as soon as everything is settled, I want to give her one last message expressing that I have lost all respect for her. TIFU, by using numbing lube and ruining my entire night. So my boyfriend and I decided to try a new and exciting lubricant we saw at the store. It was labeled with warming and numbing effects, so we thought, this sounds adventurous. We were feeling spontaneous, right? He applies it, we get started. Except, about 5 minutes in, we realize he cannot feel anything. Like at all, complete dead zone. We start to panic. I am frantically checking the label. Turns out, it is specifically designed for backdoor use and contains lidocaine, a numbing agent meant to help with discomfort in that area. In other words, we had just given his junk anesthesia. Now, not only is he completely numb, but his body is not responding at all. He is sitting there, fully naked, gently slapping himself, going, hello, like he is trying to wake it up. We spent the next hour and a half just sitting there, me frantically Googling solutions, while he poked at himself like a scientist trying to revive a frozen subject. Spoiler, it did not work. We eventually gave up and just went to bed, beyond frustrated.